The woman collapsed 50 yards from the sacred stone circle, leaving a trail of blood across the prairie grass. Chief Joseph Eaglefeather saw her fall from his horse. He'd been riding the eastern boundary of the reservation at dawn, as he did every morning, when movement caught his eye. At first he thought it was a deer, then he saw her stumble, catch herself and drop to her knees. He rode closer. She wore torn jeans and a blood-soaked jacket. Her dark hair was matted with dirt and sweat. When she heard his horse, she twisted around, eyes wild with terror. "Please," she gasped, "don't send me back." Joseph dismounted slowly, hands visible. "You're on Lakota land. Who's chasing you?" "Men with guns." She tried to stand, but her legs buckled. "They'll be here soon." "They've been tracking me for 2 days." He knelt beside her, examining the wound on her shoulder. "Gunshot. Recent. The bullet had passed through, but she'd lost blood. What's your name?" "Maya." "Maya Carter." She grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "I need sanctuary. Please. They'll kill me if they find me." Joseph heard it then, the distant rumble of vehicles, multiple engines moving fast across the open land. They were coming from the east, where the reservation bordered state highway land. "Can you ride?" he asked. She nodded, though her face had gone pale. He lifted her onto his horse and swung up behind her. The engines grew louder. 3 black SUVs crested the far hill, kicking up dust as they accelerated toward the boundary line. Joseph urged his horse toward the stone circle. It marked the heart of their sacred ground, a place where his people had gathered for generations. The boundary posts stood 100 yards beyond it, wooden markers that separated tribal land from everything else. The SUVs reached the boundary and stopped. Joseph halted his horse at the stone circle. Maya sagged against him, barely conscious. He could see men emerging from the vehicles, 6 of them, all armed. They wore tactical gear, not uniforms. Private contractors, maybe, or worse. One man stepped forward, tall, muscular, with cold eyes that scanned the landscape like a predator assessing prey. He stopped at the boundary post, one hand resting on the pistol at his hip. "That woman is a fugitive," he called out. His voice carried across the distance, hard and certain. "Send her back, and we'll leave peacefully." Joseph felt Maya tense in his arms. Her breathing had become shallow, urgent. "This is sovereign land," Joseph replied, his voice steady. "You have no authority here." The man smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then we have a problem, Chief, because I'm not leaving without her." Joseph stared at the armed men, then down at the woman bleeding against his chest. He'd made decisions before that put his people at risk. He'd stood against federal agents, mining companies, and corrupt officials. But something about this felt different, darker. "Cross that boundary," Joseph said quietly, "and you declare war on this tribe." The man's smile widened. "War it is, then! End of part 1, the mercenaries didn't cross the boundary." "Not yet." Joseph carried Maya to the tribal medical clinic, a small building near the center of the reservation. Dr. Naomi Blackbird met them at the door, her experienced eyes taking in the gunshot wound without hesitation. "Get her inside," Naomi said, already moving toward the examination room. "How many are out there?" 6 that I saw." Joseph laid Maya on the table as gently as he could, armed, professional. Naomi cut away Maya's jacket and began cleaning the wound. "She's lucky. Clean exit wound. But she needs antibiotics and fluids. She's dehydrated, probably hasn't eaten in days." Maya's eyes fluttered open. "They won't wait long," she whispered. "Cole doesn't have patience." "Cole?" Joseph asked. "The one who spoke to you." Her hand found Joseph's wrist. "He worked for the same people I did. Before I ran." Naomi inserted an IV with practiced efficiency. "What people?" Maya's voice was barely audible. "Bad people. People who traffic guns, drugs, girls. I kept their books, moved their money. I was good at it." Shame filled her eyes. "I thought I could just do the job, take the money, and pretend I didn't know what it funded." Joseph felt the weight of her confession. What changed? I saw them kill a man, a federal agent who'd infiltrated the organization. They executed him in a warehouse in Detroit. Maya's breathing quickened. He looked at me before they shot him, like he was begging me to remember, to tell someone. So I took every file I had, every transaction, every name, every account number, and I ran. 3 years ago, Joseph said, understanding, dawning. You've been running for 3 years. They've been hunting me just as long. She closed her eyes. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come here. I just saw the boundary markers and thought maybe on tribal land I'd be safe from federal jurisdiction. I didn't think about what it would cost you. The clinic door burst open. Thomas Whitehorse, Joseph's council member and oldest friend, stormed inside. His weathered face was tight with anger. Those men are setting up camp at our eastern boundary, Thomas said. Tents, equipment, they're not leaving. Joseph stepped outside with Thomas, leaving Naomi to finish treating Maya. The morning sun had risen fully now, casting long shadows across the reservation. In the distance, he could see the black SUVs and the small encampment the mercenaries were establishing. We need to call the tribal police, Thomas said, and the FBI. This is a federal matter. She says the FBI might be compromised, that the people hunting her have connections in federal law enforcement. Thomas's eyes narrowed. And you believe her? Joseph, we don't know this woman. She admits she worked for criminals. She could be lying about everything. She has a bullet hole in her shoulder that says someone wants her dead. Maybe she deserves it. Thomas's voice was harsh. Our people don't need this trouble. We have enough battles fighting the pipeline companies and the state government over water rights. We don't need to add armed mercenaries to the list. Joseph understood his friend's anger. Thomas had fought beside him for years, protecting their land and their people from every threat that came. But something about Maya's terror felt genuine, and the way Brennan had smiled when he mentioned war, that was the smile of a man who enjoyed violence. Gather the council, Joseph said. We vote on this. You already made the decision when you brought her here, Thomas said. But he walked toward the council building anyway. Joseph returned to the clinic. Maya was sitting up now, color returning to her face as the IV fluids worked. Naomi was bandaging her shoulder. Your council member is right to be angry, Maya said quietly. I've brought death to your doorstep. We've faced death before. Joseph pulled up a chair. But I need the truth. All of it. What evidence do you have? Maya reached for the small backpack she'd been carrying. From a hidden pocket, she pulled out a flash drive on a chain around her neck. Everything. Bank accounts in the Cayman Islands, wire transfers, names of politicians, judges, federal agents on the payroll. 3 years of transactions. Why haven't you given this to the authorities? Because half the names on this drive are authorities. Her laugh was bitter. I tried once. Walked into an FBI field office in Phoenix. The agent I spoke to seemed interested, took my contact information. 2 days later, Brennan's team found me in my motel room. I barely escaped. She met his eyes. The corruption goes deeper than you can imagine. The clinic door opened again. This time it was Joseph's daughter, Kiona. At 26, she worked as the tribe's legal advocate, fighting their battles in courtrooms instead of on horseback. Her long black hair was pulled back, and she carried a laptop. Dad, we have a problem. She set the laptop on the counter, turning it so Joseph could see the screen. The mercenaries have a website. They're live streaming from the boundary. Joseph looked at the screen. Brennan stood in front of a camera, speaking directly to the lens. This is a message for Chief Joseph Eaglefeather, Brennan said, his voice calm and reasonable. The woman you're harboring, Maya Carter, is wanted in connection with multiple federal crimes. We are authorized by the United States government to take her into custody. Surrender her within 24 hours, or we will be forced to enter tribal land and extract her by force. Kiona paused the video. Dad, if they have federal authorization... They don't, Maya interrupted. It's a lie. Brennan doesn't work for the government anymore. He's private now, working for the same criminal network I escaped from. Can you prove that? Kiona asked. Maya held up the flash drive. With this, I can prove everything. Joseph looked from the drive to the video, then out the window toward the boundary where armed men waited. Thomas was right about one thing. He had already made his choice when he brought Maya across that boundary. Now he had to live with the consequences. Kiona, call every news outlet within 200 miles, Joseph said. If Brennan wants to live stream, we'll make sure the whole world is watching. Thomas, gather the council for an emergency session, and someone contact our people. If Brennan wants a siege, we'll show him what it means to challenge the Lakota. He turned back to Maya. You said you can prove everything on that drive? She nodded. Then we're going to need to copy it. Multiple copies. Because if Brennan is willing to hunt you for 3 years, he's not going to stop until he gets it back or until everyone knows what's on it. Joseph's voice hardened. It's time to stop running. It's time to fight. Outside, the sun climbed higher. At the boundary, Cole Brennan watched the reservation with patient, predatory eyes. The siege had begun. End of Part 2, the tribal council chamber filled quickly. 15 members sat in a circle, their faces reflecting the same tension Joseph felt. News had spread fast. Armed men at the boundary, a fugitive seeking sanctuary, a chief who declared he wouldn't surrender her. Thomas stood first. We need to discuss the reality of our situation. 6 armed mercenaries are camped on our border, with more likely coming. We have families here with parados, children, elders. Is one woman's life worth risking all of theirs? It's not just her life, Kiona said, connecting her laptop to the projector. I've been researching Cole Brennan. He's former Delta Force, dishonorably discharged 8 years ago for excessive force during an operation in Afghanistan. Since then, he's worked for various private military contractors. She pulled up a photo. But for the last 5 years, he's been employed by a shell corporation called Redstone Solutions. What does Redstone do? Asked Marie Running Horse, the tribe's education director. Officially? Security consulting. Unofficially? Kiona clicked to another screen showing a web of corporate connections. They're linked to 17 different criminal investigations across 8 states. Drug trafficking, illegal weapons sales, and human trafficking. But every investigation gets shut down before charges are filed. Maya sat in the corner, pale but steady. Because they own the people who would file those charges. Judges, prosecutors, federal agents. That's what I documented. That's why they want me dead. Thomas turned to her, his expression hard. You helped them build this empire. You moved their blood money. How many people suffered because of what you did? Too many. Maya's voice didn't waver. I can't undo that, but I can expose them. That flash drive has everything. Names, account numbers, transaction records going back 6 years. It's enough to bring down the entire network. If it's real, Thomas said. If you're telling the truth. I can verify it, said Daniel Whitecrow, the tribe's IT specialist. Give me 2 hours with that drive and I'll know if the data is legitimate. Joseph nodded. Do it. Copy everything first. Multiple backups. The council chamber door opened. James Littlebird, head of tribal police, entered with a grim expression. We have movement at the boundary. 2 more vehicles just arrived. That makes 8 armed personnel now. They're establishing a perimeter, Maya said quietly. Cole's methodical. He'll tighten the noose slowly, cut off your resources, make you feel isolated. Then he'll offer you a deal. Surrender me and everyone walks away. What if we took that deal? Marie asked. I'm sorry, but I have to ask. What if we gave her to these men and ended this before it escalates? They'd kill her within an hour, Kiona said. And then they'd come back for the drive. They can't leave witnesses who know what they are. Joseph watched Thomas carefully. His old friend's jaw was tight, his hands clenched. Thomas had lost his son to drugs 5 years ago, prescription pills that had flooded the reservation from outside dealers. If the network Maya described was involved in that trade, Thomas had personal reasons to want them exposed. But he also had grandchildren he wanted to protect. "I want to see this evidence," Thomas said finally. "I want proof that what she's saying is real, before we commit our people to this fight." Daniel took the flash drive from Maya and headed to his office. The council waited in tense silence. 15 minutes passed, then 20. When Daniel returned, his face was ashen. "It's real," he said. "Federal judges, DEA agents, prosecutors. There's a senator from Michigan on here. Wire transfers totaling over $400 million across 3 years." He looked at Maya. "You documented everything. Transaction dates, amounts, account holders. This is prosecution-level evidence." "Show me the federal agents," Thomas demanded. Daniel pulled up a file on the projector. Names scrolled across the screen. Joseph recognized several agents who'd investigated crimes on tribal lands, who'd promised justice that never came. Thomas's face went white. "Agent Richard Davison. He investigated my son's overdose, said he couldn't find the suppliers." His voice shook with rage. "He's on this list. He took money to look the other way while poison flooded our community." The room went silent. "How many others?" Marie asked quietly. "How many investigations on our land were sabotaged by these people?" "We don't know," Joseph said, "but now we have a chance to find out, and to stop it." A commotion outside interrupted them. James rushed to the window. "They're here." Joseph looked out to see federal vehicles approaching, 2 black sedans with government plates. 4 people emerged, 3 men in suits and 1 woman. They walked to the council building with the confidence of people accustomed to authority. "FBI," James confirmed, checking his phone. "They called ahead. Said they're here to resolve the situation." Maya stood abruptly, fear flashing across her face. "Don't trust them. Check the list. See if their names are on it." Kiona was already searching. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Then she stopped, her face going pale. "Dad, the lead agent, Special Agent Curtis Hamilton. He's on the list. 3 payments totaling $200,000. Joseph felt ice slide down his spine. The FBI wasn't here to help. They were here to retrieve Maya for Brennan. "What do we do?" Marie asked. Joseph made his decision. "We treat them with courtesy and respect. We listen to what they have to say, and we give them nothing." He turned to James. "Post security outside this building. No one gets in without my permission. And get our legal counsel on the phone. We need to know exactly what rights we have here." To Kiona and Daniel, he said upload copies of that drive to secure cloud storage. Send copies to news organizations, civil rights groups, anyone with the resources to investigate this. If something happens to Maya or to that drive, the information still gets out. Thomas stepped beside him. "You're really doing this? You're going to war with the federal government." "I'm protecting someone on our land from people who want to murder her," Joseph corrected. "That's not war. That's sovereignty. They won't see it that way. I don't care how they see it." Joseph watched the federal agents approaching the building. "Our people have been poisoned, exploited, and ignored, while the very people who were supposed to protect them took bribes to enable it. This ends now." A knock came at the door. James opened it to reveal Special Agent Hamilton, a tall man in his 50s with silver hair and cold blue eyes. "Chief Eaglefeather," Hamilton said with a practiced smile, "we need to talk about Maya Carter. We have a warrant for her arrest, and we're authorized to take her into federal custody immediately." Joseph stood his ground. "This is tribal land. Your warrant has no jurisdiction here without tribal approval." Hamilton's smile thinned. "Don't make this difficult, Chief. We're trying to resolve this peacefully. But if you harbor a federal fugitive, you're committing a crime." "Show me the warrant," Kiona said, stepping forward. "And your credentials." Hamilton handed over both. Kiona examined them carefully, then pulled out her phone and made a call. Joseph watched her speak quietly to someone, saw her face harden. She ended the call. The warrant was issued 3 hours ago by Judge Patricia Morrison in Detroit. According to the evidence on Maya's drive, Judge Morrison has received $400,000 in bribes over the past 2 years. She looked at Hamilton. "This warrant is fruit of a poisoned tree. We're not honoring it." Hamilton's expression turned to stone. "You're making a serious mistake." "No," Joseph said. "You made the mistake when you thought we wouldn't fight back. Maya Carter remains under tribal protection. If you want to challenge that, take it to a legitimate court, one that isn't on your payroll." Hamilton stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I'll relay your position to my superiors. But understand, Chief, you're protecting a criminal, and there will be consequences." "We'll face them," Joseph said. The federal agents left. Through the window, Joseph watched them walk back to their vehicles, saw Hamilton pull out his phone and make a call. Minutes later, at the boundary line, Brennan emerged from his tent to answer his own phone. Whatever was coming next, it would be worse than what they'd faced so far. Thomas stood beside Joseph, watching the same scene. "They're coordinating, the FBI and the mercenaries." "I know. We're truly alone in this." Joseph thought of his people, his daughter, the children playing in the reservation school. He thought of Thomas's dead son and all the other lives destroyed by the network Maya had helped build and was now trying to expose. "We've always been alone," Joseph said, "but we're still standing, and we'll still be standing when this is over." Outside, the noose tightened. End of part 3. The power went out at midnight. Joseph was in his office when the lights died. Through the window, he watched the entire reservation go dark. Every building, every streetlight, every home, all swallowed by blackness in an instant. His phone rang immediately. James Littlebird's voice was tight with controlled anger. They cut the main power line coming into the reservation. Clean-cut, professional work. "We're running on backup generators for essential services only." "How long can the generators last?" "Medical clinic, tribal police, and council building." "Maybe 48 hours if we're careful." "But homes are dark. We've got elders who need oxygen machines, kids who are scared. This is terrorism, Chief." Joseph felt rage build in his chest, but he forced it down. Anger wouldn't help. "Get the generators prioritized. Medical needs first, then homes with elders and small children. I'm calling an emergency meeting."
He hung up and looked out at the boundary.
Even in the darkness, he could see the mercenary camp lit up with portable lights. They wanted the tribe to see them, comfortable and powered, while the reservations suffered. 20 minutes later, the core council gathered in the generator-lit chamber. Thomas, Marie, James, Kiona, Daniel, and Dr. Fishwell, Naomi Blackbird. Maya sat with them now, her shoulder bandaged, but her eyes alert. "This is just the beginning," Maya said. "Cole's following a pattern. 2. First he isolates you, cuts power, blocks roads. Then he'll cut water and communications. He'll make you desperate enough to negotiate. The roads are already blocked," James reported. "At every major exit point from the reservation, they've parked vehicles across the access roads. They're calling them security checkpoints. Anyone trying to leave gets turned back." "That's illegal," Marie protested. "They can't just blockade sovereign land." "They're doing it anyway," Kiona said, her laptop screen casting blue light on her face. "And it gets worse. I've been monitoring social media and news feeds. The FBI has released a statement saying Maya Carter is a dangerous fugitive, wanted for embezzlement, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. They're painting us as extremists harboring a criminal." "Murder?" Maya's voice cracked. "I never killed anyone." "They're blaming you for the federal agent's death," Kiona explained. "The one you witnessed. They're saying you were part of the execution."
"That's a lie. Of course it's a lie," Thomas said quietly.
"But lies work when the people telling them control the narrative." He looked at Joseph. We need to get the truth out in all of it. Now. Daniel held up his phone. Already done. I've uploaded the files to 3 major investigative journalism organizations, 2 civil rights groups, and a government watchdog agency. But it'll take time for them to verify the data and publish. Time we may not have, James said. I just got word. There are now 12 armed personnel at the boundary, and 2 drones flying surveillance over the reservation. Joseph stood and walked to the window. In the distance, he could hear the buzz of the drones, could see their lights sweeping across the darkened buildings. His people were being watched, hunted, terrorized on their own land. We need to evacuate the vulnerable, Naomi said. The sick, the elderly, the children. Get them out before this gets worse. Where? Joseph asked. Every road is blocked. Then we make our own roads. Thomas's voice was firm. The northern boundary backs up to the Graybull Ranch. Old Man Graybull owes us favors. We could move people overland, through the back country where vehicles can't follow. It's a 10-mile hike through rough terrain, James said, at night, with people who can't walk easily. Better than keeping them here when the shooting starts, Thomas countered. Maya stood abruptly. No. Stop. This is exactly what Cole wants, to scatter you, make you weak. Once you're divided, he'll move in. She faced Joseph directly. I should leave. Right now. I'll turn myself into Brennan, and this ends. They'll kill you, Kiona said. I know, but at least your people survive. Joseph saw the resignation in her eyes, the guilt. She believed she deserved whatever fate waited for her. 3 years of running had convinced her that death was the only escape. No one's surrendering, Joseph said firmly. We don't sacrifice people to make problems go away. That's not who we are. Then what do we do? Marie asked. We can't fight them. They have military training, automatic weapons. We have hunting rifles and handguns. We have something they don't, Thomas said, surprising everyone. The older man stood, his weathered face set with determination. We have right on our side, and we have home advantage. This land has protected our people for generations. It'll protect us now. Joseph felt a shift in the room. Thomas had been the strongest voice of caution, the one most willing to negotiate. Now he was advocating for resistance. What changed your mind? Joseph asked. Agent Davison's name on that list. All those payments while my son died and the drugs kept flowing. Thomas's voice was thick with emotion. I won't let them win anymore, not without a fight. A crack of thunder made everyone jump. Through the window, Joseph saw lightning split the sky. Rain began to fall, heavy and sudden. The weather's turning, James observed. Storms coming in fast. Maya moved to the window beside Joseph. Cole hates operating in bad weather. It interferes with his drones, his surveillance equipment. This might buy us time. Time for what? Marie asked. Joseph made his decision. Time to fortify. James, I want security details at every major building. Armed patrols on the perimeter. If they want to cross our boundary, they'll have to do it knowing we're watching. Daniel, keep pushing those files to journalists. Find someone who will break the story fast. Naomi, prepare the clinic for casualties. I hope it doesn't come to that, but we need to be ready. Kiona, draft a legal challenge to everything. The blockade, the warrant, the federal involvement. File it with every court that has jurisdiction. Thomas, you and I are going to talk to our people. They need to know what's happening and what we're asking of them. Thunder crashed again, closer this time. The rain intensified, drumming on the roof like war drums. Maya grabbed Joseph's arm. You're really going to fight them, all of them. The FBI, the mercenaries, the entire network. We're going to expose them, Joseph corrected. Fighting is what they want. We're going to show the world who they really are. A flash of lightning illuminated the boundary line. Through the rain, Joseph could see the mercenary camp. Their lights still burning bright, and standing at the edge of the boundary, illuminated for just a moment, was Cole Brennan. He was looking directly at the council building, directly at Joseph. Even through the storm, Joseph felt the weight of that gaze. Brennan wasn't just here for Maya, he was here to break them, to prove that resistance was futile. Joseph stared back, refusing to look away. If Brennan wanted a demonstration of will, he'd give him one. The lightning faded. Darkness returned. "Sir," James said, his voice urgent, "we've got movement at the southern checkpoint. They're not just blocking the road anymore, they're building something." Joseph pulled out binoculars and looked through the rain. At the southern checkpoint, barely visible through the storm, he could see the mercenaries constructing what looked like a guard tower. Permanent infrastructure. "They're settling in for a long siege," Maya said quietly. "This won't end quickly."
Another phone rang.
Kiona answered, listened, then her face went white. "Dad?" That was the county sheriff. He says he's received orders from the state attorney general to assist federal authorities in maintaining the security perimeter around the reservation. They're making this official. They're legitimizing the blockade. The room fell silent, except for the sound of rain. Thomas spoke first. "Then we're truly cut off?" "No," Joseph said, watching the mercenaries work in the storm. "We're where we've always been, standing on our own land, protecting our own people, fighting our own battles. The only difference now is the world is watching." He turned to face his council. "Tomorrow, when this storm clears, we go on the offensive. We tell our story, we show them what sovereignty means. And we don't back down." Outside, the storm raged. At the boundary, Cole Brennan and his mercenaries dug in for war. Inside the council chamber, the Lakota prepared to defend what was theirs. The real battle was about to begin. X end of Part 4. The attack came at dawn. Joseph was walking the perimeter with James when the first shots rang out. Bullets tore through the morning air, slamming into the ground near their feet. They dove for cover behind a concrete barrier as automatic gunfire erupted from 3 positions along the boundary. "They're shooting at us!" James shouted over the noise. "On our own land!" Joseph pulled out his radio. "All units, we're under fire at the eastern perimeter. Get people to shelter." More gunfire. Joseph risked a glance over the barrier and saw muzzle flashes from the mercenary positions. They weren't aiming to kill, not yet. The shots were landing deliberately short, kicking up dirt and stone. A warning. Then Cole Brennan's voice boomed over a loudspeaker. "That was a demonstration, Chief Eaglefeather. The next volley won't miss. You have 1 hour to surrender Maya Carter, or we're coming in." The shooting stopped as suddenly as it started. Eerie silence fell over the reservation, broken only by distant screams and the sound of people running for cover. Joseph's phone rang. It was Kiona. "Dad, are you hurt?" "I'm fine." "Get everyone to the shelters, now." Already happening. "But Dad, the news networks are covering this. Brennan's people released footage of the shooting. They're claiming we fired first, that they returned fire in self-defense." Joseph felt sick. "That's impossible. We haven't fired a single shot."
"I know, but they doctored the video."
"I'm watching it now. They spliced in footage from somewhere else to make it look like our people shot at them." Kiona's voice trembled with rage. "They're creating a narrative where we're the aggressors." Thomas appeared, running low across the open ground. He slid behind the barrier next to Joseph, breathing hard. The council building. "Now, we've got a situation." They sprinted back to the council building, staying low. Inside, chaos had erupted. The council members were gathered around a television, watching news coverage. Maya stood apart, her face ashen. On the screen, a news anchor spoke over the doctored footage. Federal authorities report that armed militants on the Lakota reservation opened fire on law enforcement this morning. The standoff, which began 3 days ago when the tribe refused to surrender fugitive Maya Carter, has now turned violent. "Turn it off!" Joseph ordered. "Daniel killed the feed!" It's everywhere. Every major network is running the same story. They're calling us domestic terrorists. They're also saying we're holding Maya against her will. Marie added, her voice shaking. That we kidnapped her. Maya stepped forward. Let me go to them, right now, before anyone dies. They've already started killing us, Thomas said grimly. He pointed to his phone. Naomi just called. 3 people had heart attacks from the panic during the shooting. One of them was Ruth Eagleheart. She's 83 years old. She didn't survive. The room went silent. Joseph felt the weight of that death settle on his shoulders. Ruth Eagleheart had taught him tribal history when he was a child. She'd lived through the occupation of Wounded Knee, the fight for water rights, decades of struggle, and now she was dead because mercenaries had terrorized his people. This is murder, James said quietly. They murdered her as sure as if they'd put a bullet in her chest. And they'll murder more, Kiona added. Look. She turned her laptop screen around. Social media is exploding. Half the country thinks we're terrorists holding a hostage. The other half is calling for federal troops to storm the reservation. They're creating justification, Maya said, her voice hollow. Cole's building a case for a full assault. He needs the public to support it, to see you as the villains. Once he has that, he'll come in with overwhelming force. A massive explosion shook the building. Everyone rushed to the windows. In the distance, a fireball rose into the morning sky. The tribal police station was engulfed in flames. They fired a rocket, James said, stunned. A rocket launcher at our police station. Joseph's radio crackled to life. Panicked voices reported casualties, fire, people trapped. The police station hadn't been empty. 3 officers had been inside. Get emergency services there, Joseph ordered, but he already knew. Their fire truck had been disabled when the power was cut. They had no water pressure without electricity. Thomas gripped his arm. Joseph, they're going to kill us all. Through the window, Joseph saw movement at the boundary. The mercenaries were advancing, crossing onto tribal land in a coordinated line. 12 armed men, moving with military precision. They're coming in, Daniel said. Joseph made a decision. James, arm every person who can hold a weapon. If they want to fight, we'll give them one.
Dad, no! Kiona grabbed his arm.
That's what they want. The moment we shoot back, we validate every lie they've told. Then what do you suggest? Joseph's voice was harsh with frustration and grief. Let them execute us one by one? We document everything, Kiona said. Live stream it. Show the world what's really happening. Every phone, every camera, every recording device we have, we make them kill us on camera, where the whole world can see their lies exposed. Maya stepped between them. There's another option. I fight. Everyone turned to her. I know how Cole operates, Maya continued. I know his tactics, his weaknesses. I worked with him for 2 years before I ran. He's arrogant. He thinks he's invincible. She looked at Joseph. Give me a weapon and a team. I'll stop them.
You have a gunshot wound,
Naomi protested. You can barely lift your arm. Then give me people who can shoot straight. Maya's eyes were hard now, no longer the terrified fugitive who'd collapsed on their land. I'm done running. I'm done letting other people die for my mistakes. The building shook again. Another explosion. Closer this time. The mercenaries were using grenades to clear buildings as they advanced. Thomas stood. I'm with her. They killed my son with their poison, and now they've killed Ruth. I'm done talking. Thomas, Joseph started. No, you're our chief, Joseph. You need to lead our people, keep them safe, tell the world what's happening here. Let us handle the fighting. Thomas looked at the other council members. Who's with me? James stepped forward. I am. Then Daniel. Me too. Marie hesitated, then nodded. My grandfather fought at Little Bighorn. I won't dishonor his memory by hiding while invaders attack our home. Joseph looked at his friends, his council, preparing to fight a battle they couldn't win. Outside, the mercenaries advanced. Explosions echoed across the reservation. His people were dying. Kiona touched his arm gently. Dad, let them fight. You and I need to document this. We need to make sure the truth survives, even if we don't. The door burst open. One of the tribal police officers stumbled in, blood streaming from a head wound. Chief, they've breached the southern perimeter. They're moving toward the clinic where injured people were being treated, where elders too sick to move were sheltered. Joseph felt something break inside him, not his spirit, but his restraint. These men had come to his land, terrorized his people, murdered Ruth Eagleheart, and now they were advancing on the defenseless. "Arm everyone," he said quietly. "Maya, Thomas, take whoever's willing. Hold them at the clinic. Don't let them reach our wounded." "What about you?" Thomas asked. "There." Joseph picked up a rifle from the emergency cabinet. "I'm going to the sacred stone circle. If Brennan wants me, he can come get me himself." He turned to Kiona. "Record everything. No matter what happens, the truth gets out." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Outside, the mercenaries advanced through smoke and fire. At the boundary, Cole Brennan watched through binoculars, a satisfied smile on his face. Everything was going according to plan. But inside the reservation, the Lakota weren't surrendering. They were preparing to defend their home with everything they had. Maya led Thomas, James, Daniel, and Marie toward the clinic, weapons in hand. They took positions behind vehicles, barriers, anything that could provide cover. Joseph walked alone toward the sacred stone circle, the place where this had all begun. The morning sun cast long shadows across the grass. Somewhere in the distance he heard chanting, his people singing the old songs, calling for protection from the spirits of their ancestors. A helicopter appeared over the horizon. News media, filming everything. Good, Joseph thought. Let them see. Let the whole world see what happens when you stand up to monsters. The mercenaries came into view, advancing in formation. Brennan was with them now, leading from the front. Joseph stood in the center of the stone circle and raised his rifle. "This is sacred ground," he shouted. "You cross this line. You declare war on the Lakota people." Brennan stopped 20 yards away. His mercenaries spread out, weapons trained on Joseph. "It's over, Chief," Brennan called out. "Surrender the woman and we'll let your people live." "Liar," Joseph said. "You'll kill us all anyway. That's what you've been paid to do." Brennan's smile widened. "Smart man, but you're wrong about one thing. I'm going to enjoy this." He raised his hand to signal the attack. A single gunshot cracked across the reservation, but it didn't come from Brennan's men. Asterisk end of part 5, the shot came from behind Brennan's line. One of his mercenaries dropped, clutching his leg. Then another shot, and another. Chaos erupted as Brennan's team scattered, searching for the shooter. From the northern ridge, Joseph saw them. Dozens of vehicles pouring onto the reservation from the Graybull Ranch side. Ranchers, townspeople, native activists from neighboring tribes. They'd come overland during the night, armed and ready. Old Man Graybull's voice boomed over a radio. "Chief Eaglefeather, you've got friends here. We're not letting these bastards take your land." Brennan's face twisted with rage. He barked orders into his radio, trying to reorganize his scattered forces, but the element of surprise was gone. At the clinic, Maya saw the reinforcements arrive. "Now," she shouted to Thomas. While they're confused, they broke from cover, advancing on the mercenaries who'd been moving toward the clinic. Thomas fired first, his shot striking a mercenary's weapon and sending it flying. James and Daniel laid down covering fire, while Marie moved wounded civilians to safety. Maya moved like she'd been born to this, using her knowledge of Brennan's tactics against him. She knew how his teams communicated, how they positioned themselves. Every weakness she'd observed during her years working alongside him, she exploited now. A mercenary rounded a corner and found Maya waiting. She struck him with the rifle butt, dropping him instantly. "That's for every person you've terrorized," she hissed. At the stone circle, Brennan turned his attention back to Joseph. "Clever," he admitted, "but it doesn't change anything. You're still outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time, am I?" Joseph nodded toward the sky. 3 news helicopters circled overhead now, their cameras capturing everything, and on the ground, Kiona was live-streaming directly to the internet, her video being shared thousands of times per second. Brennan's expression faltered. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The narrative was slipping from his control. Then the sound of sirens cut through the air. Real federal vehicles this time. Not the corrupt agents, but legitimate FBI units from the regional office, along with U.S. Marshals and Department of Justice investigators. Special Agent Keisha Washington emerged from the lead vehicle, her badge held high. "This is the FBI. Everyone lower your weapons. This operation is over." Brennan's face went pale. "You have no authority here. We're operating under federal warrant, a fraudulent warrant issued by a corrupt judge." Agent Washington cut him off. "We've spent the last 12 hours reviewing the evidence files that were sent to our office. We know everything, Mr. Brennan. About Redstone Solutions, about the trafficking network, about the federal agents on your payroll." She looked at her team. "Arrest them all." Brennan's mercenaries looked at each other, uncertain. They were contractors, not zealots. When federal agents with legitimate authority ordered them to stand down, most complied, but Brennan didn't. He grabbed the nearest weapon and fired toward the council building. The shot went wild, but the intent was clear. If he was going down, he'd take as many with him as possible. Joseph didn't hesitate. He fired once, precisely hitting Brennan's shoulder and spinning him around. The weapon clattered from Brennan's hand. U.S. Marshals swarmed Brennan, forcing him to the ground. He screamed threats and curses as they cuffed him, but it was over. Maya emerged from behind the clinic, lowering her weapon. Thomas was beside her, helping support a wounded James. They'd held the line. Agent Washington approached Joseph. "Chief Eaglefeather, I apologize for how long this took. When we received those files, we had to verify everything and determine who we could trust. Half our field office was compromised." "People died because of your delay," Joseph said quietly. "I know. And there will be accountability for that. But right now, I need Maya Carter's testimony. She's the key to bringing down this entire network." Maya stepped forward. "I'll testify. But I want immunity and witness protection." "Done," Agent Washington said. "You've earned it." Kiona ran to her father, wrapping him in a tight embrace. "It's over, Dad. The video's gone viral. Everyone knows the truth now." But Joseph looked around at the damage. The burned police station, the traumatized people emerging from shelters, the body of Ruth Eagleheart waiting for burial. The fighting's over, but the healing hasn't started. Over the next hours, arrests were made. Special Agent Hamilton and the corrupt FBI agents were taken into custody. The judge who'd issued the fraudulent warrant was arrested at her home in Detroit. Names from Maya's files led to arrests across 8 states. 3 days later, Joseph stood at Ruth Eagleheart's funeral. The entire reservation had gathered to honor her. As they lowered her into the earth, he spoke the old prayers and made a promise. Her death would mean something. It would be the sacrifice that exposed the corruption, that brought justice. Maya attended the funeral, standing at the back. Afterward, she approached Joseph. "I'm leaving tomorrow. Witness protection. New identity, new life." "You could stay," Joseph said. "You fought for us. You're one of us now." She smiled sadly. "I appreciate that. But I have years of testimony ahead of me. Trials, depositions, investigations. This isn't over for me." She paused. "I'm sorry for all of it. For the years I spent helping them, for bringing this violence to your home." "You also brought the truth," Joseph replied. "That counts for something." Thomas joined them, his arm in a sling from a bullet graze. The council voted. "We're installing our own power generation, our own water systems. We're never going to be vulnerable like this again." Joseph nodded. It was the right decision. Sovereignty meant self-sufficiency. Maya shook both their hands. "Thank you. For believing me when no one else would. For standing up when it would have been easier to surrender me." "We protect our own," Thomas said simply. You became our own the moment you asked for sanctuary. She left the next morning in an unmarked federal vehicle. Joseph watched her go, wondering if she'd ever find peace or if the ghosts of her past would haunt her forever. Weeks passed. The news coverage continued as the trials began. Politicians resigned, federal agents were convicted, and the criminal network was systematically dismantled. Maya's testimony was devastating, precise, and unshakable. The reservation slowly rebuilt. The police station rose from the ashes. Solar panels appeared on rooftops. Water wells were drilled. The people healed, though some scars would never fully fade. One evening, Joseph stood at the sacred stone circle, watching the sunset. Chiona joined him. "The governor called," she said. "He wants to apologize personally for not intervening sooner."
"Too late for Ruth," Joseph said. "I know."
"But he's proposing legislation to protect tribal sovereignty, to prevent this from ever happening again." Joseph was quiet for a moment. Laws only matter if people enforce them. "We learned that the hard way. So what do we do?" He looked at his daughter, seeing the strength in her eyes. She'd filmed everything, shared it with the world, made sure the truth survived. She'd been as much a warrior as anyone who'd carried a weapon. "We remember," Joseph said. "We remember Ruth and everyone who suffered. We remember that sovereignty isn't given, it's defended. And we teach the next generation to be ready, because this won't be the last time someone tries to take what's ours." Chiona nodded. "I've been thinking. I want to start a legal defense fund. Help other tribes when they face situations like this." "Good," Joseph said. "Use what we learned. Make sure no one else has to stand alone." The sun set over the reservation, painting the sky in brilliant shades of red and gold. In the distance, Joseph could hear children playing, life returning to normal. The nightmare was over, but he knew, deep in his bones, that the fight for sovereignty was never truly over. It was a constant vigilance, a perpetual defense of rights that others would always seek to diminish. Still, standing there in the sacred circle where he'd faced down Cole Brennan, where he'd refused to surrender his people's dignity and safety, Joseph felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. They had survived. They had stood their ground. They had won, and they would be ready when the next fight came. The Lakota endured. They always had. They always would. *The end.